Welcome to another episode of Spill the Tea. On today's topic, we will be discussing being single in today's world, what it means, what the struggles are, and how society views it. I have my special guest joining me. Guest, please tell our listeners your name.
Hi, my name is Diane, aka DY.
Hello, DY, and welcome to Spill the Tea. So, being single in today's world, what does it mean to you?
Girl, that's a tough question. You tell me what you think about it.
So, being single in today's world is not being able to find what it is you're looking for. It's like, when you're hungry and you have a craving for something and you don't want nothing else but that. And I feel like being single in a way is kind of like that because it's like, you know what you want, but it's a matter of how to put all the ingredients together.
Yes.
So,
No, it's true. It's true, and it's pretty tough out there in these days.
yes, it is. So, from your point of view, can you tell me why you're single?
Why I'm single? Oh, I think honestly right now I always say there's a lot more men than there is women, and therefore men are just on to the next. I feel like there's little patience with us with as women.
That is very true. I agree with you on that. And sometimes like they said, there's more men than women. So it seems like they don't have the patience to just deal with one individual. Because the moment you might make a mistake or you might do something they don't like, they feel, oh, I can get better with the next person rather than to work with you, to try and grow with you and try to maybe even help you fix whatever is wrong.
Yes, I completely agree. I really agree with that. It's been hard. Like, you go on a first date and then the second date is just an option. It may happen or it may not happen. You know what I mean?
And do you feel that's more so on the female's part or is that on the man's part?
Honestly, I think it's with both. Because think about it, in this day and age, we have online dating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're going there to meet this person to see if they could be a suitable mate. But then everybody has their own expectations, and it's like they're laid down on the table at the dinner. You know what I mean? That's the dinner, and we're all checking our expectations, but in our head without even communicating, which is very important. Communication is number one part of a relationship in order for it to work. But nobody's talking about their expectation, and then you walk away without even communicating what it is that you were looking for, and then somehow the second date doesn't happen. So it's on both ends. I think maybe communication is just not there as well. What do you think?
I feel like, honestly, on a first date, it might be too soon for you to talk about your expectations. I understand you're there to know the person or you're there to find out, but I feel like on a first date, for you to lay out your expectation, remember, sometimes, like, the opposite sex, men, they do not like being put on the spot and they don't like being pressured. So some of them, even though you might have the expectations in your head, the minute you start laying it to them or you start bringing it to them, they just look like, girl, I just met you. Today's just the first date. Like, why are you talking about? And then they end up getting scared and start being like, let me backtrack because it seems like maybe she's looking for something that I can't give her at the moment.
And this is why I find that we are not going on second dates because people are already on to, I can't give her this at the moment. But before you even get there, I find before you get on the first date, you've already started talking about who you are, what you're all about, right? Before you meet. So when you're getting there, I don't think it's that hard to be able to express what your wants and what your needs are.
That's true. But I see it as well in today's world. What makes it that much difficult with the singleness is that the communication aspect is not much because you can meet somebody. And back in the days before when we didn't look too much into texting and all this other stuff, you would pick up the phone and talk to the individual.
Yes.
But in today's world, we don't have that. You don't get somebody actually picking up the phone and staying on the phone with you for an hour, 2 hours, or however long to be able to get to know you. It starts off with the texting back and forth. And before you know it, a week into meeting this person initially, you've not even had a phone conversation with them and you've been texting for a week.
Yes. And I think it changes the whole game once you get on the phone and you get to talk to this person and you understand their mindset.
100%.
It completely changes the game. And when you go to meet them physically, at that point in time, you feel like you already know them. And that's a another thing. When you go meet these people, they are almost like you're meeting a stranger. So it brings back to the point of you saying, if you're talking about your expectations, you can't talk about your expectations to a stranger.
Very true.
You know what I mean? So had you had that conversation over the phone, you'd have been able to express yourself. And by the time you guys meet, it just feels like you already know each other, which would then lead on to the second date. But why do you think we don't get on to the second date or the third date? Let's call it the third date. At least the second date might happen. What about the third date? Why is it a lot of women are staying single in this day and age?
We're not getting to the second date or sometimes the third date based off of we're too quick to judge. We're too quick not to give people a chance, because maybe on the first date, the person could have said something that you didn't like. But rather than to call it out, I can say, I'm a female. We register stuff in our heads like computers. And right there, we start looking at it to be like, oh, if this is what he's saying, then that means that's how he really is. But maybe that's not what he meant. And had you asked the person to explain where they're coming from and what they meant by the comment they made, you would get to understand them. But somebody can make a comment and right there we judge and be like, this is who he is. I don't even want to bother, because down the line, what I allow is what's going to continue. And that's not always the case.
I can tell you, I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of the block button, right? So he said the wrong thing. I'm blocking him, right?
How can you find anybody if this is what you're doing? Because in this case, you cannot, because already before you can even give that person a chance, you're quick to be like, block. No, he coughed wrong. He even sneezed wrong. I'm not with this. No, girl, that's not the one for me. He laughed too weird. Like, what?
Girl, like, no, I'm not doing the cough wrong, But at the end of the day, there's certain things that, you're starting. I'll give you an example, right? So I was talking to this guy, and this was before we started talking. And then this man started talking to me about having multiple wives.
Oh.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So this is a man who's trying to get to know me, and he's talking about, if I was to get married with you, can I add another wife? How am I going on to the second conversation or even on a date with this man? I'm already understanding his thought process. And even if he says, oh, I just wanted to see how you think, you've already put it out there.
But him wanting to know how you think doesn't necessarily mean this is what he's going to do.
This is what he wanted to do, girlfriend.
So he opened his mouth and said if he was to marry you, he would want to add a second wife.
Yes.
Okay, so all right, that's fine.
So how am I going on a second conversation with him, or third or fourth? Continue, I can't. There's no need. At this point, we're no longer a fit. Do you know what I mean? And it's okay to say, we're not a fit. And this is why online dating exists, because you go on to the next. But that's also, I find it becomes a problem, because we have so many options. And this is both men and women. We have a lot of options. So we're not taking the time to get to know that one person that is in front of you, because you can just go on to the next.
Let's come back to the online dating thing. And I would say due to this online dating thing, it makes it that much harder for sometimes meeting genuine people. Because thanks to online dating, thanks to social media, people can slide in your DMs and hey, it works for some people and it doesn't work. But what happened to the old days of meeting people like face to face?
I mean, that was there before COVID, right? We are doing during these times. It's harder, obviously, but before that, I don't know. I honestly can't tell you why men are finding it harder to approach women, because that's how it kind of goes, right? Back in the days, you'd be somewhere and then you meet somebody and the man would approach you, and then it goes from there. So there's a reason why online dating is becoming the go-to.
So are we saying that men are not able to approach females like they used to back in the day?
I can't speak for men, right? We're not men. We don't know how they're thinking right now, but we can speak on how we are receiving what's happening, right?
Okay.
We could talk about, like, if we were out, you will have a couple men talk to you, but then also we are also judging, right? It's not all like on the men's side. We can't put it all on the men's side. You can't tell me you go out and on a night out and there's a guy who talks to you and then we'll look at them sideways, but that could have been the person. So we're judgy. We as women, sometimes we can be our own downfall.
100%.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Yes.
Because sometimes you can have somebody who comes in front of you and they could be decent. They could be somebody that if you were open-minded or gave a chance, you would be able to get to know them. They're really cool. But like I said, we are too quick to cancel people out, to block people without actually giving them the fair chance that they might deserve.
Yes. Yes,
So
I think honestly it goes both ways. We are not putting in the effort, and the men are probably tired of being shut down. And also, if you think about online dating, it's all physicality. We're all going there to see what is the best look, who's the best looking person that I can talk to. And sometimes it's not what we need. It's not all about physicality aspect of, and sometimes you pass by the right guy just because he doesn't look right.
okay, so on to my next question. How society sees you as in living in abroad, and how, if we were in Africa, how the African society would see you. What is the difference?
Oh, that one is huge. Personally, I'm from Rwanda. I grew up in Canada, but I travel back home all the time. What I can tell you though, when you are over 30 and you are a single woman, I don't know, I can't speak for men, but when you're a single woman over 30, you need to get married like yesterday. Like 2 weeks ago, we should have been at your traditional wedding. But when you're here, you're abroad, it feels like it's okay. You are fine as long as you're working, you're doing your thing. Sometimes you'll find entrepreneurial women who are older, much older than 30, and they're single, and nobody's sitting there judging them from here. But when you're back home, you gotta get married. You know, I don't know how it is where you come from. If that's the same point of view, how if you get the phone calls from your mom asking what's happening, where's your husband?
I get that all the time. Trust me, I get that all the time. And just like you said, it is a lot different where in Canada it's become the whole piece of my like I see it being here and being single. There's nothing wrong with me because I have certain expectations, but if I was to be back home, this would not have happened, which means either there would have been some type of setup for me to be married off already and probably would have had 2 or 3 kids already, compared to being here, maybe finding myself, finding what I'm looking for, finding what I want in a partner, and being able to decide for myself. Because the more society is influenced in your decision, the easier it is for you to make the wrong one. Because the more sometimes people are in your head, you're getting so many different feedbacks from different types of people. And I will be honest, even being Ghanaian myself, sometimes it does get to me because then the more they pressure you, it makes you feel like you're the problem, like something's wrong with you.
But you're not the problem though.
I understand that. Being here has taught me that I'm not. But if this was back home, and even here, sometimes I'm telling you, peer pressure from family, from friends, from family friends and everybody, they may look at it to be like, no, you're the problem because you're too picky and you just don't want to. Where if it was up to them, if some of them are married, then it's like, yeah, just pick whatever comes your way and just be in the same boat with us.
Yes. But do you find like if all your friends are getting married, you feel like you also need to get married, or are you okay with your singleness, with your singlehood? That's the way we could say it.
I do find myself to have a bit of the peer pressure to go ahead and get married because it's like all my friends are. And there are times where my own mind play games on me sometimes where I'm like, you know what, maybe I should just close my eyes and do eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and whoever lands on, let me just take it and go about my business. I'm just saying. But then I come back to, I always said growing up that I wanted to only be married once and not leave that marriage. I would want it to last for a long time. So if I'm to close my eyes and do eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and looking at myself and what it will make me to be happy in a partner, I probably will end up getting divorced, and that's something I don't want.
And that is not gonna happen because that is what you have wanted all this time.
100%.
And that means that you cherish the meaning of marriage. It's not just something that you have to do to get to get by life. It's something you will need at some point when it's right. You're not just gonna jump into it just for the sake of what people are saying, which is good, which is something that a lot of women are not doing, where we are succumbing to that peer pressure. So honestly, applaud yourself that you are able to stand your ground and say you're gonna wait until you find the right mate for you.
Amen to that. I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back. Thank you.
Definitely. But let me ask you, what do you find that is keeping you single? What is out there that is not allowing you to meet your perfect partner?
I feel like what's keeping me from being single is maybe going through too many like bad relationships, and that has kind of maybe scarred me a little bit. But at the same time, what I was doing in my 20s, so far as relationships go, I see it differently in my 30s. And right now in my 30s, I know what I can bring to the table as a partner. I know what I can do to empower my significant other once he comes into my life. So back then, what I was doing, I see it to be completely different now. And what's keeping me is like maybe I need to just let my guard down and allow somebody into my life to see the person that I am, to see the woman that I am, and maybe like care for me and love me the way I deserve to be loved.
Yes.
Say,
Yes.
Same question goes for you. What is holding you back from being with somebody?
Honestly, I feel like I will not just settle for just anybody. You know what I mean? Like it's so easy to settle because a lot of people look at you as a single woman and they think that you don't have options. You know, like you just said, any, mini, money, more. If you're doing any, mini, money, more, that means you have the options. But it's not about an any, mini, money, more situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a gambling situation. This is somebody that you want to